Welcome to the Story World channel. Enjoy your viewing experience. In his pocket, Albert clumsily searched for a small box containing a precious ring. He had been saving up for this exquisite piece for 6 long months. As he held the expensive ring in his hand, a sense of excitement and nervousness filled him. Tonight, he planned to propose to his beloved Nora. He vividly pictured her saying yes, unable to imagine the possibility of her refusal. They had crossed paths a year ago when Albert, working as a cab driver in an unfamiliar city, had unintentionally found himself lost. Fate had intervened when a frightened girl collided with him, seeking help to escape a man who was pursuing her after a heavy drinking session. Despite the option of fleeing in his cab, Albert bravely confronted the man, using his well-learned self-defense skills to subdue him. That incident marked the beginning of their enchanting romance. Now, sitting in a cafe, Albert anxiously checked his watch. Nora was supposed to be there an hour ago, and her absence began to worry him. He contemplated calling her but hesitated, fearing that he might disturb her, leading to her not showing up at all. Unable to bear the uncertainty any longer, he reached for his phone, only to discover an unnoticed message from Nora that had arrived an hour before. Shockingly, the message conveyed her decision not to come and revealed the truth he least expected. Nora no longer loved him. She loved Alex, her ex-boyfriend, the same man who had pursued her on the day they first met. The unfortunate encounter between them had resulted in a fight, and Nora had grown afraid of Alex. The revelation left Albert dumbfounded, and his heart sank as he processed the sudden turn of events. Emotions of confusion, heartache, and disbelief swirled inside him as he grappled with the unexpected end to their relationship. Albert had never once entertained the possibility that they were clandestinely meeting behind his back, completely hidden from his awareness. He found himself utterly unequipped to handle the torrent of emotions that surged within him. Seeking some form of refuge, Albert sought solace in the dimly lit ambience of a bar, where he proceeded to drown his sorrows in copious amounts of alcohol. For what seemed like an eternity, he attempted to suppress the profound sense of betrayal inflicted upon him by someone he held dear. Despair clouded his mind, leaving him adrift with no clear path forward, uncertain of how he could endure this immense pain. Through the labyrinthine streets of the nocturnal city, Albert wandered aimlessly, barely able to maintain his balance, his thoughts shrouded in a haze of confusion and distress. Out of nowhere, a spectral figure in white materialized before him, like an apparition haunting the night. Albert's eyes widened in surprise as he struggled to comprehend the sudden and unexpected sight. Slowly, the realization dawned upon him. He had arrived at the city bridge, a notorious location where shattered souls, disillusioned and desperate, sought refuge in oblivion. No, that's certainly not an option for me, Albert resolved resolutely, pushing away any dark thoughts that threatened to ensnare him. His determination was disrupted by the chilling sound of a body plunging into the frigid waters below. A deep, gravelly voice resonated from the shadows, lamenting the frequency of such tragic events. Confused and barely grasping the reality of the situation, Albert was approached by a disheveled, homeless old man. Weary and frail, the old man wearily gestured towards the bridge, disclosing the recent tragedy that unfolded. A young woman, draped in a white dress, had just taken the fatal leap into the river. The weight of this revelation seemed to snap Albert out of his intoxicated stupor, and a newfound sense of sobriety surged through him. With a sense of urgency, he hastened to the bridge's railing, peering down into the darkness below, his heart pounding in his chest. There, on the water's surface, something white caught his eye, the young woman's veil. Time was of the essence, and without a moment's hesitation, Albert leaped into the icy waters, driven by an unwavering determination to rescue her from the grip of death. He searched fervently, diving down repeatedly until, at last, he found her lifeless form and managed to bring her to the safety of the shore. Desperation washed over him as he initiated artificial respiration, desperately trying to revive her. Yet there were no signs of life, and despair threatened to consume him. But then, like a miracle, her body stirred, and water gushed from her mouth as she coughed, showing a glimmer of life. The young woman's eyes fluttered open, bewildered and disoriented, trying to comprehend the situation she found herself in. As the adrenaline began to subside, Albert, still trembling from the emotional turmoil, took a closer look at her face and involuntarily recoiled. He recognized her, and from the stunned expression on her face, it became evident that she recognized him too. An undeniable connection bound them together, revealing a twist in the narrative that Connor had never anticipated. Since he was a child, Albert's mother, Madison, had served as a devoted maid in the opulent mansion of Madison's wealthy parents. Together, they resided within the grandeur of that expansive house. For years, Madison's mother saw herself as an integral part of the household, almost like a cherished member of the family. She believed her loyalty and hard work would be reciprocated in times of need. Sadly, reality proved to be a cruel awakening. When Albert was merely 9 years old, his mother was diagnosed with cancer, and her hopes of receiving support from the people she had served diligently were shattered. The family, led by the patriarch, callously abandoned Madison and her ailing mother, leaving them homeless and without assistance. The only glimmer of compassion came from the owner's daughter, Madison, who empathized with the dire situation. However, her influence was limited, and she could not prevent the harsh actions of her domineering father. As the disease rapidly progressed, Madison's mother passed away, and young Albert was left to face the world alone, finding refuge in an orphanage. Years later, in an unexpected twist of fate, Albert found himself standing on a bridge, gazing at a distressed Madison. She had just endured heartbreak and betrayal on the day of her wedding, discovering her fiancé's infidelity with her best friend. Overwhelmed by pain and resentment, she sought solace on the bridge, questioning how she had ended up in this desperate state. Startled by the sight of Albert, Madison turned to him, tears streaming down her cheeks, and poured out her anguish. In a bitter irony, he too had lost his fiancé that very day. They shared a strange bond of misery and disbelief, both seemingly drawn to the same bridge by some inexplicable force. Gently, Albert consoled Madison, assuring her that, no matter how devastating the situation, her life was precious and worth preserving. As he held out a small box containing a beautiful wedding ring, Madison's eyes filled with admiration. Amidst their shared sorrow, they found a connection, as if destined to meet on that very bridge. In an attempt to escape the cold night and find comfort in each other's company, Albert invited Madison to his home. An hour later, they stood together in the warmth of his dwelling, sipping on hot tea, their souls bound by a shared experience of loss and heartache. Over the next few days, Albert and Madison found solace in each other's presence, offering support and understanding in a world that had been so unkind to them both. They began to realize that life's unpredictable twists had brought them together for a reason. As they leaned on each other, sharing their stories and dreams, a unique friendship blossomed, helping them heal and find new meaning in life. In each other's company, they discovered the strength to move forward and embrace the uncertainty of the future. Through their shared journey of pain and resilience, Albert and Madison forged a bond that defied societal norms and expectations. In a world divided by class and wealth, they found an extraordinary connection that proved love and compassion knew no boundaries. Together, they embarked on a path of healing, vowing to embrace life's uncertainties and find happiness in the most unexpected places. In the quaint little house, Madison found solace after a long day. With the weight of her hateful wedding dress lifted, she sought comfort in a steaming hot shower, wrapping herself in a generously sized bath towel. Turning to her savior, she decided to share her sorrowful tale. As it turned out, Nicholas, Madison's fiancé, was none other than her father's business partner, someone she had never truly liked. Despite her feelings, her father constantly pressured her to maintain ties with him, eventually leading to an unavoidable wedding. Her father, a tough and ambitious businessman, saw this marriage as a means to strengthen his position and expand his empire. Madison attempted to resist the arrangement and even contemplated leaving her parents, but doing so would mean losing the financial support she relied on. However, deep down, she knew she wasn't a fighter. She cherished the tranquility and love for art instilled in her by her mother. She preferred living in her own quiet world, spending hours at the easel, immersed in her passion. Her father promised to set up an art studio for her, and despite her doubts, she succumbed to his words. Fear of the unknown world outside also played a role in her decision. In the midst of her turmoil, Madison found solace in a heart-to-heart conversation with her friend Albert, who had experienced his share of struggles as well. Albert empathized with Madison's plight, knowing all too well the pain of being left alone in an unfamiliar world. He vividly remembered his own mother's suffering, and he couldn't forgive Madison's father for his cruelty towards her. He offered his support to Madison, inviting her to stay in his apartment until they figured out a solution together. Grateful for Albert's kindness and moved by his willingness to help, Madison's hope was rekindled. Despite the past grievances between Albert's family and hers, he had stepped up to save her from an uncertain fate. Madison accepted his offer and stayed the night, finally feeling safe for the first time in a long while. While Madison slept peacefully, Albert sat across from her, lost in memories of their childhood. He realized that Madison had held a special place in his heart all these years, the kind little girl who had been his first love. As the night went on, a newfound bond between Madison and Albert began to grow, intertwining their paths once more. The memories of their cherished friendship flitted back to Albert as he recalled how much Madison loved to draw. She had even painted her first portrait of him when they used to play together while her parents were away. However, her father strongly disapproved of their close bond, particularly because the housekeeper's son, Albert, lived in their house. He frequently advised the housekeeper to send Albert to an orphanage, much to his mother's distress. Albert's mother feared they would be thrown out of the house if he did anything to upset the owners. Despite the disapproval, Albert couldn't bear to part with Madison. He often reminisced about their moments together. As the days passed, Madison's return to Albert's life brought him immense courage. With her by his side, he felt invincible. Determined to change their fate, Madison decided to file for divorce and leave her home, with Albert's unwavering support. In the morning, when Albert woke up, he found Madison had prepared breakfast for him. Her presence filled his heart with warmth and happiness. They discussed their plan to face her father and take control of their lives. Madison knew confronting her father would lead to a huge scandal. He was more concerned about preserving appearances than his daughter's happiness. Madison boldly stood her ground, expressing her love for Albert and the fact that he had saved her life. She condemned her father's past treatment of Albert and his mother, which further fueled the tension. Seeing no empathy or understanding from her father, Madison made the difficult decision to leave home, determined to build a life on her own terms. As promised, Albert stayed by her side throughout the ordeal, offering unwavering support and comfort. Madison secured a job at an art museum, finally finding fulfillment in pursuing her passion. With Albert's love and encouragement, she experienced true happiness after years of turmoil. Over time, the bond between Madison and Albert grew stronger, evolving into a deep and passionate love. 6 months later, Madison discovered she was expecting a baby, filling their hearts with joy. Realizing the importance of family and wanting to do things right, Albert suggested they inform Madison's parents and get married. He didn't want their love to be a secret, and he was determined to reconcile with her father for the sake of their growing family. With a mix of hope and trepidation, Albert approached Madison's father, hoping that he could find a way to mend the broken relationship and secure a bright future for the woman he loved and their unborn child. Having returned to the house after 15 long years, Albert immediately noticed that nothing had changed over time, and he was still unwelcome. Madison's father, filled with anger, vehemently refused to accept any notion of marriage between his daughter and the son of their former maid. "I once lacked the strength to protect my dying mother," Albert retorted, "but now I possess enough courage to protect your daughter. Madison will not come back here unless you come to your senses and beg for her forgiveness." Madison's father responded with a torrent of curses and threats, while her mother, Mrs. Brooke, silently wept, unable to defy her husband's despotic demeanor. Despite being just as weak-willed as before, Mrs. Brooke once had dreams of pursuing an artistic career, having been promised a workshop and the freedom to express her creativity. But she was deceived by her husband and trapped in the dull, joyless existence of a rich yet unfulfilled home. Secretly relieved that her daughter had escaped a similar fate, Mrs. Brooke found solace in the fact that Madison had someone who genuinely cared for her. That very day, Albert and Madison decided to leave, packing their belongings and moving to another city. They used the proceeds from the sale of Albert's diamond ring and Madison's jewelry, a gift from her late grandfather, to rent a modest space and open a small art cafe. In their art cafe, Madison adorned the walls with her own paintings, creating an inviting space for creative minds to gather. The cafe quickly became a popular spot for artists and art enthusiasts alike, hosting thematic exhibitions and live music performances. It became a place where people could freely share their creative ideas and learn from each other. A few months later, the couple welcomed a beautiful baby girl named Maria, honoring Albert's late mother. Surprisingly, Madison's mother decided to visit, seeking refuge from her oppressive husband. "My dears, here I am, seeking shelter," Madison's mother expressed. "I can't bear living with this tyrant any longer." Without hesitation, Madison embraced her mother and assured her that they would all live together as a family, never to be apart again. It was a moment of joy and unity as they vowed to support each other and cherish the newfound happiness they had created together. In their art cafe, surrounded by love, creativity, and newfound freedom, the family thrived, celebrating the triumph over adversity and the beauty that can blossom when hearts are united in pursuit of a shared dream.